you have a new project coming out soon based off of your Instagram. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the Prairieville thing was very songwritery. I mean, it was, as much as I wanted the best songs to win and I wanted to have a lot of universal themes on there, it was still very niche for me. Like, and it wasn't received as well as some of the albums I've put out in the past. Not like negatively, just didn't get a big response from it. I think there was some weird thing. I love 80s production. So you have these kind of Great Plains singer songwritery stuff with some synth stuff going. And it was very much, if I'm going to make a record, this is how I want it to sound. This is what I want to do. I don't know that it connects with a large audience. And so I kind of wanted to go back and just find great songs and work with my producer, Dan. No theme at all. Just what are the best possible songs that we can find. I love 3-minute pop songs. I love Elton John, Tom Petty, Mellencamp. And so it's not really, there's no theme. It's just what are the best songs we can find. And that's kind of where we started. And we started with, there's a Muscadine Bloodline cover. Every Day That Ends in Y is one that we recorded. This song Bloodline, my friend Randy Montana wrote. And that's another thing I learned along the way, which is a whole different story. Is, when I first started, I thought I had to write all my own songs. And Paul Worley, I got, when I was at Sony, I recorded a project with him that never came out. And he had this long talk with me. He's like, look, you can write songs. That's good. He's like, and you can sing and whatever. He's like, your thing is that you're a communicator and that when you do something, it's believable. It sounds honest. And he's like, maybe it's because, you really sound genuine when you're doing this. He's like, that's your strength. Focus on that. Who cares if you wrote it? If you can beat it with your own writing, do it. If you can't, don't turn down a great song because you didn't write it. Be the communicator. That's your strength. And so I kind of buckled down on that. And that's when I really embraced that. That's when I really started to kind of get some traction and have some success and take your ego out of the mix. Just record the best song.
Is that where Better Off Gone?
Yeah.
Did you write that or no?
No, that was Donovan Woods and Abe Stoklosa. I'm probably mispronounced his last name. I always do that. And I know Abe really well, but yeah, that was Donovan Woods and Abe. And Carla found that song and she sent it to me and she said, this is a couple of people that tried to record this. It didn't quite work for them. I was like, that's a really cool song. And I'm going to give it a shot. And when we put that, it was on the 2017 Comeback Road album. It's real acoustic based. It's the last song I thought that was going to really strike a chord with people, with listeners. And, my friend Daniel Tashin had told me early on, he's like, hey man, you're kind of a big guy. You go out there, you start doing all this, try to get in people's faces, rock, do the abrasive thing. It's not going to work for you. He's like, people are going to enjoy the more vulnerable side of you. That's where you're going to find success. And he was right, because that was the first song that really found a big audience for me. And so I found from that point forward, kind of the more vulnerable, heartfelt, maybe slow to mid-tempo songs are the things that I've really had success with. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what's interesting for me is that's the first song I ever heard. And I don't know if that's because it was on, maybe it made more playlists. Therefore I heard it just naturally through something else I was listening to or whatever, but I love that song. And I also love, Ain't Always Pretty. Mm-hmm. Which is another similar acoustic-y love song. Actually, the acoustic version I think is rad.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. That's interesting. So you probably, did you think you were going to be kind of an upbeat guy? And not that you're not, but in terms of connecting with people.
Yeah, I wanted to be like Petty or Mellencamp, Heartland rocker type, and you can hear that in a lot of there's an album that came out in 2009. I'm not super proud of it. I was 21 when I wrote most of the songs. It's kind of, I was figuring it out. Still didn't know how to sing, in the studio or sing period. But right after that period was when I started kind of self-producing a lot of stuff. And I was taking in a lot of solo rights to the studio and recording with my road band. And there's a project called From the Vault, I think, that a lot of those songs are on. There's a song called Used Up that was on there. Can't Get Away from a Good Time was on there. And that stuff was all like kind of what I felt like what I was going to do. It was like kind of be this roots rock kind of thing. And, it just never really found, I had my own little fan base with it, but it never really got any legs. And I don't know that that's who I was. I was trying to emulate. I was trying to be Tom Petty. I wasn't trying to be me. And so it's really important to figure out, who it is you really are in here before you can just, it's cool to go emulate Tom